Today we have a quick clip of Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris discussing Tucker Carlson. Let's see what they got to say about this interesting individual.
I could say the same thing about Tucker Carlson, right? And you might, whether you agree with me or not, this is my view of him, that he's not in the truth-seeking journalistic integrity business. He's got some other political project that entails spreading a fair amount of misinformation quite cynically and consciously, and smearing lots of people. And in the case of, I don't know how deep his anti-Semitism runs, but in the case of that particular topic, midwifing a very misleading conversation with an amateur historian who he considers the greatest historian working in America today, Daryl Cooper, the podcaster. And the opinion expressed, again, this is at the highest possible level in our information ecosystem. It's the largest audience. Few historians in human history have ever had a bigger audience than Daryl Cooper had on Tucker's podcast, and then quickly followed by his appearance on Joe Rogan's podcast, right? And on that podcast, he spread the lie that, the recycled, David Irving point that, the Holocaust was not at all what it seemed, and and you wouldn't believe it, but the Nazis really never intended to kill the Jews. They just rounded up so many prisoners in their concentration camps and found that they just didn't have enough food during winter to feed them, and they just were put in this just impossible situation. And might it not seem more compassionate to euthanize these starving prisoners in the end, right? I mean, that's how they accidentally stumbled into the final solution, right? That's what he spread, again, to the largest possible audience. And in Tucker's case, you had a very, I would say, sinister midwifing of that conversation. In Joe's case, he just doesn't know when he's in the presence of recycled David Irving, and is just happy to have a conversation with a podcaster of whom he's a great fan. And but yet he's still culpable for not having done enough homework to adequately push back about what's being said to his audience, which is the largest podcast audience on earth. So it's journalistically, and I know Joe doesn't consider himself a journalist. He considers himself a comedian who's just having fun conversations. Great. But what that is tantamount to at this moment, especially in the context of the worst eruption of anti-Semitism we've ever seen in our lifetimes globally, that's tantamount to taking absolutely no responsibility for the kind of information that is flowing unrebutted into the ears of your audience, right? That's why I got angry at Joe, right? I mean, I love Joe. Joe is a great person. He's completely in over his head on topics of that sort, and it has a consequence. It has an effect.
Yeah, I haven't watched enough Tucker Carlson. I watched his interview with Putin. I've watched a few other interviews he's had. I'm still in a gray area deciding what I think about him. I think he's definitely trying to get a viewing since he's went on his own, so going solo. He's trying to make a following for himself and make a name and going out of the box for journalism, so to speak. So I definitely see him doing that. I'm just still in a gray area where he stands with regards to Jews and his agenda. Regarding the Holocaust, it's crazy. People think that the Nazis just didn't have a solution, and they're like, "Oh, there's Jews are starving, so we might as well just kill them." How do you explain the Mengele doing experiments? How do you explain 6 million Jews being systematically slaughtered before they even got a chance to be starved? Before the Germans had lacking for food, they had a reign over the battlefield, and to do whatever they want. They could feed all their soldiers as they were expanding and fighting around all the borders, conquering all that land. So it just doesn't make any sense. People can logically think about this. There's definitely lots of good historians if you want to follow them. Bernard Lewis, so many good sources, good YouTube channels, Kings and Generals, if you want a good, solid, I think, based understanding of history. At the end of the day, these guys, they're trying to get a lot of views, and that's why it makes our job all the more important to get our perspective out there and the truth out there to combat all these wicked, or whatever you want to call them, ignorant people who are spreading lies about the Jewish people and history, now tweaking history to their needs. You're here with Jewish Uncensored. If you like the video, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.